Push. I would call this movie uninspired, but it's obvious that it's inspired by other comic books. Yes, in other words, ripoff. I was reading the review of it in the paper today, and it said comic book inspired. What does that mean? If somehow you know that this is based off some unknown comic book, please tell me. I don't think it is, so I'm going to assume it's not. This movie really doesn't have anything really wrong with it, but there's just not much here. Because let's face it, people, we've seen this before. You see it every week on Heroes. And I've never even watched Heroes. Got a bunch of these people with powers, and they gotta run away from these guys that are gonna capture them. There are some really good moments in this movie. It's really not all that bad, but you know, we've seen it better, and it's just not very interesting. I think if they went all out on this movie and just a big shoot 'em up, blow 'em up action film, I think it would at least would have been entertaining. You would have left the theater saying, you know, it was stupid, but I was entertained. This movie tried pretty hard. I do give it props for trying. It tried to make a really good, solid action film with a really complex story, but after a while, I just had no idea what was going on anymore. They had a different motive about every 5 minutes. I wasn't sure who was on whose side anymore. I wasn't sure who wanted to do who wanted to kill who killed whose mother. It was confusing, and after a while, I just didn't care anymore. I felt like it was going on forever. And what's the actor's name? Digimon? The Oscar winner? What's he doing here? He's not even in it that much. He doesn't get to do anything. I like Chris Evans a lot. I think with good material, he can be really good. Have you seen Cellular? That is a great thriller. He's very good in it. He's really... I don't know if I'd call him the leading man. The whole films are revolved around him, but about everyone shares the equal amount of screen time. I do think the actors work well together, Dakota Fanning and Chris Evans. I kind of like the stuff between them. But really, there's just not too much to recommend here. It's not horrible. I do think some people are going to like it, but... I just wasn't into it enough to really care after a while. With a movie like this, you know, like I've said, we've seen it before. The plot, it just wasn't interesting enough. It tried, like, so hard to be so complex, and of course we got some plot twists in there, but we really know what's going to happen eventually. I knew it, like, oh, she's bad, but of course we know she's going to come back, and it's just, blech. A scene in the middle of the movie that I thought should have been at the end of the movie because it was very well executed. It was pretty epic, but then the movie just kept going on. There really isn't all that much action in this movie until the end, and I think, although this movie really isn't shot very well, a lot of the camera work is way too close to the actors, but some of the action is pretty cool, you know, like them dodging bullets with their hands and stuff, but it was just so repetitive. Some of the powers are stupid. It's just dumb. Like, they lie. They make people, like, they convince people of things that aren't true, like, to kill someone else, and it does sound kind of cool, but it's just goofy, and this movie takes itself seriously. Like, I can compare it to Jumper, because although Jumper was pretty dang stupid, it was entertaining. This movie's kind of the opposite, because it takes itself pretty seriously. It's pretty dark and violent for a movie of its kind, PG-13, but it's just not all that much fun. It really isn't, and that's what this movie should be, because let's face it, it's not going to win any Oscars. It should at least be just some entertaining action. Like I said, with the action being repetitive, there were these two Asian guys with spiky hair. They're probably called screamers, because like all the people in this movie with powers, we got pushers, and we got walkers, and that's kind of silly. And we got these guys that just keep coming and screaming, and they can kill people because they scream so loud. Over and over again. I just couldn't help but laugh. It was so stupid. And like I was saying before I interrupted myself for no reason, their eyes turn like black, and then they convince people of things. And they just did it over and over again. This movie's confusing. There were some people I had no idea what their power was about. They kept talking about like Stitchers or something. Well, there's some parts of this movie that I liked. Overall, it's a mixed bag. It's okay. I don't think it's really anything to rush out and see, but I don't think it's a complete waste of money. I think some people are going to enjoy it. It's just another disposable action film. Really nothing special about it, but nothing horrible. So overall, I'm going to give Push a 6 out of 10.